Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. I'm your host, JC Young, and today's topic of discussion is the blindness of guilt. So, guys, for today, I want to talk about just some things that have kind of been heavy on my heart here, and just having conversations with guys inside of Legacy Farm over the past month or so. There's been a lot of them that are just, struggling right now, and I don't think, I'm not saying they're struggling because of financial problems or anything like that. I'm literally going to talk today about guilt and how it really plagues the modern man and blinds us from being able to see the opportunities in front of us that God literally wants us to see, but we are so attached to our guilt and shame of the past that we just can't see them, right? We're too focused on the wrong things. And at the end of the day, you get what you focus on, right? So if you focus more of your life and more of your day is just spent on the guilt and shame that you have for mistakes that you made in the past or decisions that you made that hurt other people or put other people through, hell, whatever that may be for you, it's impossible for us to see the actual opportunities that God has put in front of us as well. So I'll use my story as an example, guys. When I left the banking industry in 2016, talking about that today, it's crazy that it's already been over 8 years and everything. When I did make that decision, everybody was against me on it. I did not tell my wife that I was making that decision. I just up and left the bank on a Saturday, told my boss at the bank that I wanted to have a conversation, ultimately handed him my letter of resignation, was told I was making the worst financial decision of my life, and I walked out the doors. Now, going through that experience, it was the most frightening day of my life, but also the most empowering day of my life as well, because now I got to decide what I wanted to do each and every day going forward, right? So it was actually, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of opportunities ahead of me. I could literally do anything, right? And like I said, that's why it was one of the most empowering days of my life there, because it was just an endless amount of choices there going forward. Now, the problems come though, what I put my family through over the next 2.5 to 3 years prior to starting Legacy Farmer in 2019. Guys, it was a struggle. It was a shit show. It was like walking through hell day after day after day after day. And the thing is, right, I know that's if everybody put all their problems into a pile after we see everybody else's, we would run and take ours back. But it still doesn't change the fact that no matter what problems you're going through, to certain people, yeah, they feel like hell. They feel very challenging. For a man that has made decisions that now his family must follow him through, if the decisions aren't working out very well in the beginning or right off the bat, really, it's really easy for us to look at that failure, right? And to just, we find our value in our ability to create things, right? And whether that's money or wealth or whatever that is. And when you fail there financially, for men, they feel like absolute failures, right? They feel like, man, that they question whether or not they deserve to be here or why they did what they did. There's just a lot of things that goes through the mind of a modern day man from my experience. I went through all those things. But the thing is though, guys, whenever you do make these decisions here, where other people are relying on your ability to hopefully make a sound decision, there's going to be consequences, right? There is going to be collateral damage there for the decisions that you make. And I think back to that time, basically from 2016 to 2019, we went through hell. We went through financial hell. We went through emotional hell. We went through relationship hell. Like, our marriage was tested to the fullest extent that it could possibly be tested during those years there, because when I left the banking industry, without my wife's permission, I destroyed all trust in her, which rightfully so. If I was in her shoes, I definitely would not trust me either. And then it was a buildup from there, because things continued to not work. I continued to fail over and over again, trying different things, trying to find my pathway and find how I could contribute and help the ag industry in one way or another. And just ultimately, find my path there. And there was a lot of pain there. I drug her through the mud, it seemed like, with every decision I made. And I just felt like an absolute freaking failure who did not feel worthy of living. And that is how men feel. At the end of the day, I'm very old school. The way I look at my job on this earth is to provide and protect for my family. If I'm failing at those two things, why am I here? What am I doing here? Do I deserve to be here? And I'm just telling you, if you have a man that's, or you are married to a man that grew up in a similar lifestyle that I did, that is what we attribute our success or failure to. Can we protect and can we provide for our families? And if we're failing on either one of those fronts there, it's, yes, you can say the word failure, but in our minds, it's 10 times bigger, right? It's just massive, right? The amount of weight that we feel there when we don't feel like we're living up to our potential and providing the life that we promised our family that we would provide. And I know countless people inside of the ag industry that their spouses are at home and they're just waiting. They've been told the same thing year after year after year after year. And so that's one of the conversations we have with a lot of people that come into Legacy Farmer when they're finally ready to start making some massive shifts, because they realize they've continued just to do the same thing year after year after year, expecting different results. And they've sold their spouse on those things as well, which I get it. dude, I get it. You're trying to survive, you're trying to make it, and you're trying to just figure things out and wait for things just to start happening, right? And that's how I felt, especially in my life. But the thing is, though, during that time, I built up a lot of guilt and shame. I only focused on the mistakes that I made. I only focused on the failures that I had. I only focused on the way that I made my wife feel at home. I only focused on how I felt as a failing father, essentially, right? Not able to provide for my family at the level that I wanted to. I only focused on the negative things there that were just rooted in guilt and shame. And the problem with this, though, is that it wasn't until I learned to release that guilt and shame that I was able to see other opportunities in my life, right? Doors in my pathway or on this journey that God had laid out for me that were in front of me. Before, I couldn't see them because I was so blinded by this prison inside of my own mind that was just, I was locked up by that guilt and shame that I felt. And most of you men right now listening to this, you're going to resonate at some level with what I'm talking about here. Again, if you attribute all your value to being able to provide and protect your family, and you're failing on one of those two fronts there, yes, you most likely have experienced some level of deep guilt and shame, just as I have. But it took me a long time to figure out that, hey, I have to release this, right? At the end of the day, I am not my mistakes. God made me to be a lot more than just my mistakes, and that my life is a lot more meaningful than the bad decisions and everything that I made in the past. Now, at the end of the day, though, my wife and I, we've gotten through that, and we've talked about it multiple times. But the thing is, though, is our relationship now is much more meaningful because we went through those hard times together. Now, when you're in the middle of it, I get it. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know how things are going to turn out. I mean, honestly, the only thing you're thinking in your mind is this is only going to get worse, right? We're going to fail. We're going to be living on the streets or living with our family or something like that because we can't make mortgage payments. Like, all these stories come up. And so I get it if you're in the middle of that right now. But I'm telling you, as somebody who's been through it with your spouse and raising little kids at the same time, getting through that time period, I wouldn't change it because it brought us closer as a couple. It made our relationship and our marriage a lot more meaningful because we went through those hard times together. And, I think about that too. And every meaningful relationship I have, the reason it's meaningful with that person is because we went through some type of hell together, right? We went through some type of challenging time or anything together, right? And so the thing is, like, we all want to avoid those challenging times, especially in marriage, right? We want to have an easy marriage and things like that. The thing is, like, what I've learned after going through that is meaningful marriages are formed through hard times, right? And that's just a reality of the situation too. And so I tell that to you because if you're going through a challenging time inside your marriage right now, hopefully that shifts your perspective on it a little bit, right? You can breathe a little bit easier, be at a little more peace because you recognize that, hey, God is putting us through this right now because 5 years from now, we're going to look back and this is going to really be the experience that we went through that, yes, may seem like hell going through it, but it really molded our relationship, right? And turned us into having just a great marriage together where we trust one another because we've been through hell together. And so I look back at that experience and yes, I was attached to the guilt and shame, but I look back at the blessing that God gave us after with a stronger marriage, right? And a marriage rooted in trust. Man, yeah, just trusting the path and making things happen and knowing that the other person's going to show up for you and that, hey, we're in this together, right? And I think that's another big thing for marriage and things like that. Guys, I've been married 11 years, which is a long time to some people. To some people, it's like, yeah, you just got your training wheels off, bud. So I get where all people are coming from there. But man, even after 11 years, it's like my viewpoint on marriage has changed so much. My viewpoint on life and this journey that we're in together with my spouse has changed so much. And again, though, too, I share all this with you because, as you can tell, I've hopefully shown that I've released a lot of the guilt and shame from the mistakes and things that I did back then. But all of them are rooted, guys, in love, right? All of them are rooted in trying to build something better for my family. And I imagine it's probably the same for you if you're listening to this podcast or watching this video right now, that you're doing things because you care about your family, because you love your family, because you want to build a great life for them. But in the beginning, right, or in the middle of it, when things aren't going well, it's easy to get that twisted, right? For people to perceive it the other way as maybe you're being selfish, you're inconsiderate. Trust me, I've heard it all before, so I know exactly what you're going through. But at the end of the day, you have to put your blinders on and focus on the big reasons as to why you were doing what you're doing. And then ultimately, what is the success that you're looking for there? And then again, too, having the perception that, hey, this may feel like chaos right now. It may feel like hell, but hey, going through this experience together, it's going to cause and help us form and mold a really great relationship because we went through this hard time together. And guess what? We got through it. So anyways, guys, I say all that because as a man or as a business owner, it's really important for you to release that guilt and shame that you have, or that you've been, putting on yourself, because then it causes you not to see, one, the blessings, but two, the doors that God has in your journey right up ahead of you. But you're literally so caught in your own prison inside your own mind that you can't see those things there, right? And I'm just going to tell you from my experience, once I was able to see the doors and then walk through them, man, life changed so dramatically, so fast. And it was like we were rained down with blessings over and over across multiple areas of life there. Again, looking back at it, it's like, man, why did I carry that with me? Because there's always going to be an experience in life where you can carry guilt and shame. If you're an entrepreneur or business owner like me, we're constantly making decisions, and there's always going to be collateral damage. At the end of the day, it comes down to like making the best possible decisions out of all the worst like case scenarios, if you know what I mean there, right? It's just like making the best worst decision that you can there, the one that's going to have a minimal amount of impact on everybody else. But if you're committed to building a business, it's a guarantee that we're going to continue to go through challenging times there, and holding on to that guilt and shame doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anybody else around you, especially either. And it's just going to keep you trapped. So at the end of the day, you got to learn to let go of those things. And then you'll be amazed at how much energetic space you create for you to see other possibilities and opportunities inside of your life. So my friends, that concludes today's episode. We're about 11 or 10 or 11 minutes into this thing. So I hope you found it valuable. Most importantly though, I hope you take away something from it, and hopefully it gives you a different perspective on your journey that you are going through right now. So my friends, that concludes today's episode. We will catch you on the next one.